Ukraine-US talks end without agreement on aid and minerals deal.
200,000 employees fired in the first round of U.S. layoffs. Munich Security Conference. A confrontation between the U.S. and Europe?
You are watching today's news on NTV. My name is Nguyễn Thị and I will be your guide through today's latest update. Talks between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance ended on the sideline of the Munich Security Conference without an announcement of a critical mineral deal that is central to Kyiv's push to win the backing of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. Very briefly,
One of the main proposals discussed was Ukraine granting the U.S. rights to exploit crucial mineral resources such as rare earths, titanium, uranium, and lithium in exchange for aid. Previously, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that he wanted Kyiv to provide $500 billion United States dollars worth of rare earth minerals and emphasized that military aid from Washington would require clear commitments from Kyiv to safeguard U.S. interests in the future. However, President Zelensky has stressed that the agreement would be aimed at creating a mutually beneficial partnership, where Ukraine would not only give away, but also join with the U.S. in mineral exploitation. More importantly, Ukraine seeks strong security guarantees from both Europe and the U.S. to protect the country from the threat posed by Russia.
Mass layoff has started in the U.S. as the Trump administration decided to terminate around 200,000 employees in the initial round. This move is part of efforts to cut down federal staff and restructure the government after Trump's inauguration.
The layoffs have broadly impacted the federal government after personnel departments advised agencies to terminate contracts with most of the 200,000 employees currently on probation. This is a significant escalation in the Trump administration's efforts to reform and downsize the federal workforce. The U.S. administration previously stated that about 75,000 employees accepted voluntary resignation offers in exchange for salary payments until the end of September. However, laying off most employees in probation, typically those recently hired who have held their roles for less than a year, could lead to deeper cuts in the federal civilian workforce of 2.3 million people.
Continuing the night extraordinary session on the morning of February 15, the 15th National Assembly held a discussion on the proposal for socio-economic development in 2025 with a target growth rate of 8% or higher.
The proposal for socio-economic development in 2025, aiming for 8% growth or more, was presented by Minister of Planning and Investment Nguyễn Thị Minh Khai. It emphasized the significance of this proposal as the growth target could lay the foundation for the 2026 to 2030 period to achieve double-digit growth, preparing the path for becoming a high middle-income country by 2035. Earlier, during the socio-economic discussion on the afternoon of February 14, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh also stressed that achieving an 8% growth rate would lead to increases in various indicators, from per capita income to labor productivity.
Coming up next are some updated news.
SK Group, one of South Korea's largest corporations, recently announced plans to expand its investment in Vietnam. During a meeting with Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh on February 14, 2025, SK Chairman Choi Tae-won expressed that the group would continue to seek strong cooperation opportunities in Vietnam, particularly in energy, agriculture, logistics, and artificial intelligence. SK has already invested approximately 3.5 billion United States dollars in Vietnam, mainly in major enterprises and projects producing environmentally friendly biodegradable materials. SK's expansion of investment will significantly contribute to the economic and social development of Vietnam, while strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership between Vietnam and South Korea.
The General Department of Customs announced the implementation of a value-added tax (VAT) collection policy following a decision by the Prime Minister. Accordingly, from February 18, Low-value imported goods sent through express delivery services will no longer be exempt from value-added tax and must comply with current VAT regulations. This decision aims to ensure alignment with international practices and enhance tax management. Combating trade fraud and tax evasion. The new regulation also creates fair competition between domestic and imported goods. Promoting domestic production.
The number of international visitors to Vietnam in January 2025 reached almost 2.1 million. An increase of 18.5% compared to last month and an increase of 36.9% compared to January of 2024. This is the new record of Vietnam's tourism industry, surpassing nearly 2 million international visitors in January 2020. Of the nearly 2.1 million visitors to Vietnam in the first month, most were from Asian markets, totaling over 1.6 million. Europe ranked second, while the Americas ranked third. Authorities note that favorable visa policies, intensified tourism promotion programs and prestigious tourism awards from international organizations have attracted a high number of international visitors to Vietnam in the first month of the new year.
The 61st Munich Security Conference (MSC) opened on February 14 in Munich, Germany, amid a volatile global landscape. This year's conference saw serious disagreement between the US and its European ally on various issues.
One of the most obvious disagreements between the US and Europe is the situation in Ukraine and the ideological values between Europe and the US. Speaking at the conference, US Vice President J.D. Vance harshly criticized European politicians for causing fear in their own people, declaring that the real threat to European democracy comes from within the continent.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
Vance also argued that before discussing defense spending, Europe needed to clearly define what it wanted to protect. He also reiterated Trump's call for Europe to take more responsibility for its own defense. These comments have been criticized by many European leaders, including German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who believes that the current US worldview is not beneficial to the international community.
The new U.S. administration has a different perspective on the world compared to Europe. This perspective does not respect the established rules, partnerships, and trust built over time.
The conference comes after Trump's proposal to impose tariffs on European allies and his stance on Russia-Ukraine negotiations, in which he agreed to rule out Ukraine's NATO membership. This position has been strongly opposed by European allies. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also spoke out, emphasizing that a failed Ukraine would affect both the US and Europe. These statements shows that the transatlantic consensus is at risk of disintegrating, as the US and Europe have increasingly conflicting views and interests.
That is the end of today's news. Thanks for your watching and see you next time.